Palm Beach, former Westchester County DA Jeanine Pirro. In Miami, former San Francisco Assistant DA Jim Hammer. In San Francisco, criminal defense attorney Michael Cardoza. And in Washington, criminal defense attorneys Ted Williams and Bernie Grimm. Jeanine, if you're the prosecutor on this case, what do you do and what are you thinking tonight?
Well, the first thing you do is authenticate the validity of the tape. And clearly, as Josie Mansour said, by Vandersloot saying he was lying on the tape, he's almost authenticating the tape. In the Netherlands, it is okay for one person to consent to a tape. The next question that you would have is, was this tape made at the behest of law enforcement, and does that cause other additional problems? But at the end of the day, you need some corroboration. And what strikes me, Greta, is that if you recall, Joran didn't have his sneakers. And it now all makes sense, and you focused on it in your interview with Joran, and that is after they had sex, he apparently got rid of the body. He must have walked into the water with the body, and that's why his sneakers are gone. But you know what? You can start to make a case. I hope that Hans Moss, you know, with this new evidence is able to start piecing it together. It may not be an intentional crime, but it's certainly, there is some criminal activity here.
All right, Jim, you are our ex-prosecutor. What do you do with this tape tonight, and what are you thinking?
I'm along the lines of Jean, but I'd add one last thing. It sounds like, from reading the press reports so far, and I can't wait to watch this tape on Sunday, I'm sure everybody else can't wait, if he made confessions or admissions, what did he confess or admit to? And from what Beth apparently is telling her lawyer, and I'm reading this, he confessed to being present when she died and then helping to dispose of the body. That's not a murder if that's all he did is present. Now, do I believe that? If that's what he said, probably not. I don't believe anything this guy says. But you get beyond the thing that he's making the whole thing up. If he doesn't confess to a murder but is just there, Greta, it's still a stretch to get a murder. Is he guilty of accessory after the fact? Probably. But from what I've read so far, I don't think we have enough to prove murder.
You know, Jim, the thing that's going to be troubling for us is that it's probably, I don't know if this is true or not, but I suspect this is in Dutch. And the translation, we're going to have to get a bunch of people to take a look at it, but when things are translated, you know, they just seem very different. They seem very different.
They do, and that's why we've got 2 and 3 levels of hearsay, what Beth allegedly told her lawyer, then has told the press. But again, if all he says is, I was there, that's enough. And again, having looked at a lot of confessions and used them in murder cases, people tend to minimize their involvement. So even if he's telling that, saying I was present, I still don't believe him. I still think he might be involved in the murder. And that's the problem with building a case just upon this confession or admission without good corroboration.
All right, Michael, let's, this has happened to every single person who's ever had a client. Poor Joe Tacopina, who is a great lawyer, and boy, I'll tell you, he must be burning tonight. I mean, you know, it's like his client is 1,000 miles away, totally out of his grasp, and who hasn't this happened to?
I'll tell you, it's happened to every one of us. Probably not to Hammer because he's not a defense attorney.
He's
I haven't
doing
crossed to the dark
now.
side.
Yeah,
no, I don't defend criminals.
Jim, enlightened side. But you know, Greta, what strikes me is, as you said, you've got to listen to the tape. You've got to listen for the nuances in the tape because you can hear the words, but how were the words said? This is going to be a petri dish for psychologists. They're going to talk about what he consciously said, the unconscious meanings.
Totally irrelevant.
Well, it may or may not
irrelevant.
be. But it could go to the truth of whether, as he said, he was joking. Those are things Tacopina is going to have to look to.
But it's not that. That's not admissible.
He didn't say he was joking. He said he was lying.
Well, I understand that, and that's, first of all, I think it's chilling because you listen to this guy talk to you, Greta, and bold-faced lie to you, apparently,
well,
and then he's to be believed now? No, he's toast.
Look, I have said before, and, you know, I may end up with lots of egg on my face, but that I was, quote, inclined to believe him. Never saying that I was certain because I've been around the block enough and I've been lied to enough.
You did give yourself an out, though. You did give yourself an out.
No, it wasn't. I wasn't trying to give myself an out. I just realized that there are some people, and, you know, some people who are really good liars who are really horrible criminals.
Sociopaths.
Exactly. So, I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm still not convinced that he did it. I want to hear the tape, and I would like to see the tape corroborated with some sort of physical evidence or something to show unique knowledge to show that we can believe it.
But who's going to believe him now?
But also, Greta, wasn't there an FBI report that suggested that there was some drug use on the part of Natalee? Weren't there some reports that came out which would indicate that?
There's so many now wild reports and crazy stuff that it's hard to remember what's what. But at least Ted can help us out, right, Ted?
Well, I think
Ted.
so to some degree. You know, I have to go along with the word corroboration. I hope that whatever is on this tape, that they will be able to, Aruban authorities, to corroborate. Now, one of the things that I'm concerned about are twofold. One, the slicing and the dicing, perhaps, of this tape. How was it actually presented? And the second thing is, I really believe, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, Yoron considered himself a ladies' man. If he made any admissions, it will probably have been to some woman at some stage during the course of this investigation. But I think this could be
that may be out on a limb.
devastating
I don't know if anyone knows he's talked to any lady or any woman, but I don't know who made the case. But anyway, Bernie, Joe Tacopina, come on, isn't it true that there's a, I mean, it's happened to all of us where your client is just talking and.
Yeah, I mean, ask Cardoza. That's why we make a living. That's how I make my mortgage payments. That's why my daughter's going to some little snotty private school. But you know, every joke that's been made about a lawyer has completely been justified. Everyone on this panel, with the exception of Janine, last night said, "There's nothing here. There's nothing here. This is a joke."
I didn't say
except
that.
for me.
I didn't say that, Bernie.
What is that, Bernie?
No. Hey, guys.
Roll the tape back.
Let's roll the
videotape,
Bernie.
Go to the videotape. Please don't yell at me. You know how sensitive I am, guys. But to quote Jim Hammer, with that being said,
Bernie.
with that being said, no one on this panel has heard the tape. One said he's guilty. One said he's not guilty. I need to hear the tape. This is absolutely completely reckless to say I think he's guilty
Bernie,
or not.
I'm taking it one step further. I'm saying I'm still looking for corroborative evidence so that we can validate the content of it.
That's what I said.
That's what Ted says tonight.
You know what his
I love all the
Greta,
lawyers tonight reinventing what was said last night.
saying
Bernie
today
took his Henri pill, I think.
Janine.
But when he says
there's
it's a
enough
lie,
corroboration.
he
There's
says
enough
it's
cooperation
a lie.
now.
That raises it to an even more serious level of credibility when he says it's a lie. That gives it some truth. Now what you've got are all the people seeing her with him, and who is the friend? If we're so sure it's not the Calpo brothers, who is his friend?
Here's the
We're gonna
problem,
find
Janine.
out.
Let me tell you the big problem with that is that there are so many people who have been on death row who confess to the worst crimes you can think of. And DNA exonerate them, saying that they never committed the crime. So that's why you've got to get the corroborative evidence, because you can't just you can't trust a confession to any lawyer.
Hey, Greta, don't you find it a little suspicious in the piece that you played before we came on, where Yoron is saying, I had to go home and I told her I had to leave. I'll walk her to the hotel. I find that suspicious on the part of Yoron. I don't believe it.
Wait. You guys don't think there's enough corroboration here?
We don't know what the content is. We don't even know what the content is, so how can we know
what is the corroboration at all, Mike? There's no corroboration whatsoever. Let's say, real quick, let's say the story. Hang on a second, Mike. Hang on a second. Let's say the story we hear on Sunday is, and then I drop the body in the ocean. Where's the corroboration of that?
If that's it, but there's going to be more than that, Jim. You watch.
But I'm saying on that fact, let's say the story is she vomited and choked in her vomit. Where's the corroboration? How can you ever prove that what she said is true?
Jim, you telling me you wouldn't prosecute this case? Is that what you're saying?
Let me stop all of you for a second. We don't know. We can't determine whether there's corroboration until we know the content. We don't even know the content at this point.
What are we corroborating, Greta? Are we corroborating a homicide? Are we corroborating getting rid of a body? What are we? That's exactly the point.
That all goes to what he's guilty of.
But there is evidence that they were with her, and then he admits that she is gone. That is a fact.
That's a fact.
And that is enough. It's just then becomes first, second, involved.
No.
You watch.
Here, Michael, here's why you're wrong. Here's why you're wrong, Michael. It's because it's a fact that he was with her. He was a fact that he's the last person known to be with her. It is now apparently a fact that he has said on tape something that is probably incriminating, but we don't know the content of it. That is a fact. But it's also a fact that people confess to crimes, and it's so bizarre to us who haven't committed a crime.
So
For that reason, For that reason, a confessional loan can't stand. A confessional loan can't stand alone. You've got to get corroboration, and that's the job of the prosecutor tonight.
I understand, and you watched them corroborate this. Listen, you know, you've got to listen to the tape, like you say. You've got to listen to it, but I think it's going to be enough, and everybody on this panel knows that's tried a case. That you go before judges, it's a lot easier than a jury, and they don't need much corroboration.
And with that, I got to take a quick break.